Hey guys, and welcome back to the New Tennis Era podcast. My name's Anthony Hirsch. Today I'm going to be talking about the Houston final that just went down between Jenson Brooksby and Frances Tiafoe, where Jenson Brooksby took his first title ever. He's been in 3 finals before. He just got his first title in what was I thought, pretty entertaining final, despite just being 2 sets against Tiafoe. Goes up to a 3-0 head-to-head lead against a fellow American, and he rises up hundreds of spots in the rankings because he was a wild card into the qualifying of this tournament at 507th in the rankings, in the ATP rankings, and now he's climbed up all the way to 172 in the rankings. It was a really impressive showing by Brooksby. It was a wild run in the tournament. The very first match he played of qualifying, he saved a match point, saved 3 against Abilo, took out the number 1 seed Tommy Paul in the semis, and saved a match point on the way too. Also in a 3rd set tiebreaker, just like against Abilo, this match was not as close, and a lot of it was because of things that Brooksby was doing well. And actually, Brooksby hasn't lost a single set in this head-to-head against Tiafoe, so he likes playing Frances. And yeah, Brooksby gets his first title. I'm going to analyze and talk about it. Later on in the podcast, I'm also going to give some very quick, kind of off-the-cuff predictions for how I think Monte-Carlo is going to go on, and talk about the men's draw just very briefly. I don't have anything prepared for that. I'm just going to look at the draw and kind of give my thoughts and predictions on things, not as in-depth as usual. Hopefully for Madrid, I can give more in-depth predictions and start doing that constantly and, weekly for tournaments where I can give more in-depth draw predictions. But for this week, it's going to be a little bit more laxed. I'm not going to go that in-depth with it. But yeah, I want to talk about the Houston final first. And first thing, don't forget to subscribe, QualityShot Tennis, and don't forget to like the podcast, would be appreciated. So, first thing I want to mention is that this tournament was completely dominated by Americans. All 8 quarterfinalists in this tournament were American, which I just felt like needs to be shouted out because that is insane. For any tournament's quarterfinals to be dominated completely and fully by all 8 people from the same country is nuts. Tennis is such a global sport that's unheard of, and particularly if you told me all 8 quarterfinal spots were American, I'd be like, that's insane. But what makes it even more insane, almost just truly unbelievable, it's on clay courts. Here in the States, we're not too keen on clay courts, so we'd rather be playing on hard courts or even grass. But no, apparently on clay, we're doing quite well this week. So that's it's a good omen for the rest of the clay season, I guess. Even though Houston, some would say, plays pretty differently than, say, Rome or something, but still a good omen ahead of the clay swing. The next thing that I want to mention is that Brooksby is the 3rd lowest ranked ATP champion in history. The lowest was Cilic at the end of last year. Also Hewitt back in 1998, Andujar, Gonzalez, those were some other ones who were all ranked outside the top 300 when they won their title, but truly a rare occurrence for Brooksby, and good to see him back at the very top of his game, playing the best he has, and really serving the best that I've seen him serve. He served very, very well. I didn't think Tiafoe took advantage enough of second serve returns because a lot of them were very attackable, and I feel like Tiafoe was very, I don't want to say lazy, but definitely not attacking and the forehand and hitting it with very much intensity or confidence, especially when he had very attackable chances. Meanwhile, Brooksby, I felt like, was more confident. He was taking his chances. He was really strong on the backhand, and he was dictating play, Brooksby was. And Tiafoe should have taken advantage of the second serve returns he got, although he didn't get that many. Brooksby got 71% of his first serves in, and especially, really throughout, the first serve was very strong from Brooksby, I felt like, for what I was expecting from him. And also, I felt like the other thing is that Tiafoe didn't hit the drop shot well enough a lot of the time, pulling Brooksby in, because I think with Brooksby, I was actually surprised. I thought his movement was quite good. But 2 things that I think Brooksby isn't, top notch in so far is perhaps movement and net play. Even in this match, he was 5 for 10 at the net. And drop shots is a good way of exploiting both of those things, making him run vertically inside the court and then also pulling him to the net and then, you know, forcing him to hit a volley or hitting a passing shot, or a lob or whatever it is. But I feel like Tiafoe didn't have that in his disposal. I felt like he gave Brooksby too many chances to take advantages, leaving gaps open in the court. And also, maybe the very main thing is Tiafoe didn't make enough first serves in to really start dictating play. That's why Brooksby was dictating nearly the whole match. Like really nearly the whole match felt dictated by Brooksby. Tiafoe made just 51% of his first serves, and he also hit 0 aces, by the way. And then the other main stat, the last one I'll name, is Brooksby won just 5 for 6 of his Brooksby won 5 for 6 of his break points. Tiafoe saving just 1 of the break points that he faced. So Tiafoe not good enough in the big points in the big matches. He's 3 for 7 in finals now, and I feel like honestly, Tiafoe's such a talented player. I think he makes life too difficult for himself. I think too often he kind of forces himself or puts himself on the back foot where he has to defend or fight back in matches. He sort of leaves room for other players to beat him, I feel like sometimes. He almost tempts them to go for great shots, and then they hit the great shots. Like, Tiafoe has the talent to stop that from happening and, you know, fill in those gaps. I feel like he just makes it harder for himself. And, you know, the opponents like Brooksby, you gotta expect big things. He's 0-6 now in sets against Brooksby, and Brooksby playing so well. He was constantly, I felt like, tempting Brooksby at a great backhand down the line. He did it time and time again in this match. Like, Tiafoe kind of needs to learn and adapt as the match goes on, kind of have a plan B, and don't give your opponent so many opportunities to really prove themselves. Like, Tiafoe needs to prove himself, prove his, you know, the worth of his shots himself, and also, you know, even if he doesn't hit a great shot himself, you know, hit, you know, more quality shots and leave those gaps a little bit less wide, in order to just make life like simpler on himself and kind of, you know, make the margins, you know, a little bit more in his favor. But overall, I thought there's some fantastic shot-making rallies. I felt like there were great passes from both. Big forehand cross-court returns. Some great backhand down-the-line passes from Brooksby. Some good rallies back and forth from both. Even though the scoreline was pretty straightforward, I thought it was a pretty exciting final overall. And yeah, I mean, Brooksby 3-0 against Tiafoe, that's a great start to a head-to-head for Brooksby, and I'm wondering if that's going to keep up. I think Brooksby has a lot of the, I don't know, craft that Tiafoe has in his game, and I don't think Brooksby is afraid of that from Tiafoe. And he also has this kind of unorthodox slice and dice that can also mix up the play. I think we especially saw it in this match in the second set. In the first set, Brooksby was hitting through his shots very, very well, and I'm going to talk about specific key points as well, but I just want to make it very clear that that Brooksby was just very solid in this match. Winners to errors ratio was really reversed from both. 25 winners to 17 errors for Brooksby. It was the same, it was like something like 16 winners and 27 errors or something for Tiafoe. It was reversed. Very positive for Brooksby, and a lot of those unforced errors came in a 4-game stretch in the middle of the first set, which I'll talk about. But yeah, those are kind of the main things I want to talk about before going into set 1. But I felt like, yeah, in general, just my main kind of breakdown of the match is that I felt like Brooksby was playing this like it was the most important match of his life, and it really, you know, it's one of them. It's right up there. This is his return match to the tour after such a crazy run, and such an important even going from whatever, I think he was 221 the live ranks before this match, going from 221 to 172 is such a big jump, obviously. And I felt like Brooksby just very high IQ tennis and not really the same for Tiafoe, and Brooksby was more gutsy, which is what it came down to as well. Smart and gutsy play from Brooksby, and fortune does favor the bold. So now I want to talk about specific things that happened throughout the match. So, set number 1. So I'm just going to talk about some key points here. So set number 1, to get broken early, Tiafoe just plays like a fairly lazy game. I don't want to use lazy in a derogatory sense. I don't even want to really use it in a way where it sort of I don't want to pretend that I know what the intention or what the level of effort or something Tiafoe was putting in. I don't mean lazy in that way, but just lazy in the way that it didn't seem like there was it just a lazy look about it. Didn't look like there was that much intensity or he was hitting through the ball, that kind of a thing, more than anything. Just hit like this lazy drop shot, a lazy backhand cross court wide, central serves. He was hitting too short to the Brooksby backhand. And yeah, I mean, I also felt like Brooksby's forehand was hitting impressive winners, and he's like showing right off the bat he's on a different level of play quality, intensity, and a big foe will have to play like absolutely top notch to win and deny Brooksby the title. I felt like early on just really good backhand depth from Brooksby, and Tiafoe's forehand just really not turned on yet. And even if he is playing a good point here and there, not great, but a good point here and there, Brooksby is still impressing, just actually like moving pretty decently for his standards and hitting through his shots. And like I said, not too much slicing early on, but just really good on the backhand from Brooksby. So Tiafoe wasn't really getting much comfort regardless of which wing he hit it to. And then after Brooksby loses just 4 points, going up to 4-0, 40-15, Tiafoe hits a forehand lob, beautiful forehand lob, which I felt like really started to turn the tables for a second. And this is the most interesting, high-level, intriguing part of the match, in my opinion. This kind of stretch from 4-0, 40-15 to 4-4, 30-40. Tiafoe wins 4 games straight and almost wins 5 in a row, and I'll talk about that. So, this is what happened in that stretch. Tiafoe's able to get both breaks back by just moving to his backhand exceptionally well. Tiafoe has underrated foot speed, and I felt like he was also able to step in closer inside the court. Part of that is the kind of improved backhand. He was able to keep it away from Brooksby's forehand, which was important because I don't think his forehand is much better than his backhand, but early on, Brooksby's forehand was on it for whatever reason. He was just hitting really great forehands in the first 4 games, just a lot of winners. And the other thing I'd mention is that Brooksby is not so good at the net, and Tiafoe played arguably the shot of the match and maybe of the tournament, in my opinion, with a forehand pass at deuce 4-2. And I feel like Brooksby, although Tiafoe played a great pass, Brooksby just waited too long for the ball to drop and he hit it too heavy-handed. And I felt like, I don't know, the way for Tiafoe to win this match is to bring Brooksby into the net more. Because that's when I felt like things were really working out for him, and what was kind of losing Brooksby his confidence in that middle of the first set stretch. But like I said, Tiafoe's drop shot I didn't think was working very well, and I felt like Brooksby was able to shorten the points before, without hitting a volley or something like that. And once again, that's up to Tiafoe leaving too many wide open gaps on the court. And then I do want to talk about the 4-4, 30-40 point. So once again, Brooksby not making enough first serves in, and Tiafoe starting to dictate. And Brooksby's forehand for a moment also kind of drops off. His backhand's still very good, but his forehand kind of drops off. And yeah, I mean, that might be to do with, I felt like early on Tiafoe was hitting the ball shorter than he wanted to, and now that he's hitting deeper and kind of not, when he's hitting it to the Brooksby forehand, I feel like he's not hitting it early in the court, early in the points. He's doing a better job at hitting it to the backhand to start off the points, which was really good. So those are some things I'd say, and definitely most notable is that Tiafoe is just really moving over to his backhand very well and hitting that backhand very, very well. And Brooksby was not making as many first serves as he was to begin with. But then we get to 4-4, 30-40. Tiafoe gets a second serve return, which was just not punished enough at all. This was Tiafoe's chance. Tiafoe does very well, I feel like, at fighting back in matches, but that kind of will to win and stay on the front foot when he's ahead, it's not the best on the tour. You know, it's not, definitely not. He's got a lot of a lot of room for improvement and a lot of room for desire to get better in that regard. Like, he just gets a very soft neutral ball, and so first of all, he just pushes the return into the just over to the next side. Then he gets a very soft neutral ball, albeit slightly awkward because just the way that Brooksby hit it, kind of bounced low, kind of got a weird bounce on the clay, but he still has a pretty good play on the ball. He just hits the slice forehand right into the net. This is his second shot of the rally. And this is arguably the most important point of the match, in hindsight. 4-4, 30-40. If Tiafoe wins this point, suddenly, you know, everything can change. I'll talk about that a little bit later too, because in hindsight, this point was very important, because after this, Brooksby really just started kind of running away with it a little bit, as he was at the first stretch of the match. Like I said, he had only lost 4 points. In this game again, Tiafoe also at deuce, it's a slightly awkward forehand slice. In that 4-game stretch where Tiafoe won 4 games in a row, he was hitting through his shots. Tiafoe was stepping in, he was hitting aggressive with the backhand. Part of that has to do with footwork and getting into position early, and just moving inside the court. Now suddenly, with the forehand, he's just kind of awkwardly slicing it, and yeah, I don't know. He doesn't have that confidence or conviction, and Brooksby starts building confidence with a couple of great points in a row. He hits big over this backhand cross court, just generating pace really well, hitting it a few inches within the line, just a perfect shot. And then I feel like the next point after that, Brooksby also built confidence with this. Tiafoe hit a drop shot, which once again should be a shot that Tiafoe likes in this matchup, but he doesn't hit a good enough drop shot, and Brooksby hits, I guess, his signature kind of shot, which is this forehand slice winner that stays really low. I feel like that was a good confidence builder for Brooksby as well. And then in this 5-4 game, I'm not going to talk about as many key points of the second set as I just did there in the first set, because I really feel like the first set was absolutely crucial. And I'll explain why, because the break that Tiafoe gives away in the second set was really very much on Tiafoe's terms, not so much on Brooksby's terms. Meanwhile, in the first set, very clear that everything pretty much was very earned by Brooksby. And in this final game, Tiafoe just starts leaving way too much space open on the deuce side to his forehand, and Brooksby taking advantage, hitting backhand down the line so well. Just so well. And Tiafoe finding himself too far back behind the baseline again. Now that he's even in the match, he's somehow, for some reason, steps back again. Just making life more difficult from him. Maybe a sign of, like, a lack of confidence. On the set point, basically all the points were like that. It just like Tiafoe leaving way too much space open in the court for Brooksby to step in, and his backhand just kind of urging Brooksby to hit the backhand down the line, which he was doing. One of them was just like a terrible approach, which Brooksby hit a very easy pass on down the line. And then on set point, Tiafoe finding himself too far back behind the baseline again. He has some great defense, but Brooksby hits just this sensational half volley sliding on the clay, showing that he's really likes playing on clay, I guess. I mean, the movement on the clay was very good, but I think also it shows that he's been playing a lot on these courts and getting used to these courts, unlike Tiafoe as much. I mean, Brooksby's played so many hours on these courts this week, just long matches since qualifying. He's played more matches than Tiafoe, so that's one pro to being a qualifier, I think. And yeah, just very good sliding on the clay to seal the set with a good hands at the net as well with the half volley. Very talented player, Brooksby. I feel like both of these guys are like talented in a very like unorthodox, like one of a kind, unique way, which I think is cool. Yeah, and then talk about the second set. I'll just talk about a few moments here, but Tiafoe not taking advantage of second serves at all, yet again. To start off the second set, it's actually deuce at 2-2 on Brooksby's serve. And then Brooksby at deuce hits one of his 5 aces, just unreturnable serve. Great serve. At advantage, Brooksby hits his very soft central second serve right to the sweet spot of Tiafoe, who hits it just very like high, short, with not much on it, very neutral, and then he loses the rally. It's really kind of a lack of confidence on the forehand and not taking advantage of returns that really set the foundation for Brooksby to win this in straight sets. If Tiafoe was doing those two things, Brooksby maybe still would have won because he was doing a lot of things quite well, but Tiafoe not doing those two things really set him up for failure a little bit. And to be honest, at 3-2, the game that Tiafoe got broken, after this deuce game, Tiafoe just plays like pretty bad points, like a double fault, his worst approach of the match, just a gimme pass. And then really those couple of just lackadaisical points was then set up Brooksby's shot of the match, this crazy backhand down the line pass, showing off some great movements. But once again, I feel like Tiafoe was kind of urging Brooksby to hit a great shot, and Brooksby said, okay, I'll hit a great shot. And Tiafoe let off on a forehand, which really allowed Brooksby to hit that shot. Because Tiafoe, if he hit it just 10% harder or, into that place, then the point would be over. And he had such a high margin to do that. So overall, I felt like Brooksby was playing smarter and gutsier, like I said, and just higher intensity, and that was very, very clear. So yeah, and then Brooksby at the last game, Brooksby broke again, just with constant depth from to Tiafoe's backhand, drawing literally 4 backhands from Tiafoe into the net to win the final game. But yeah, I mean, talking again about that point at 4-4, 30-40, who knows? If Tiafoe wins that point, especially because the crowd seemed pretty much behind him, you know, who knows what would have happened. Tiafoe could have kept going with that momentum. It looked like he was starting to dictate play. He was hitting some fantastic shot making. A lot of patterns were working quite well for him. And things kind of slowed down for Brooksby, and then Brooksby, with the next couple points, gained confidence yet again, which he seemed to lack for 4 games straight. So sometimes it just comes down to one point, which you just wish, you know, Tiafoe, like I said, only had 2 shots in that point. Neutral ball, he hit into the net. Just a forehand slice when he was hitting through it for the last 4 games. So that's why Tiafoe's 3-7 in finals. He needs to step up in the big points in the big matches, which he just doesn't do, because 1 point like that, and then yeah, the match went the way the match did. Overall, I thought it was high level, but there were a lot of things left to be desired for Tiafoe overall. So that was my analysis of Tiafoe versus Brooksby All-American final matchup, and yeah, shout out to Brooksby. He's a fun player to watch, so I hope that he keeps up the level. Tiafoe in another final, his first in Cincinnati last year. His second loss in the finals of Houston 2 years in a row. 2 consecutive losses 2 years in a row in Houston. But yeah, I mean, still, I mean, I guess good run for Tiafoe, but a great run for Brooksby. Really notable run. Saving match points, probably one of the best and most notable title runs of the year. Actually, not probably, definitely. You know, knowing that it's history, the 3rd lowest ranked player to win a title, and it's his first title. But he's been on the tour before. 24 years old, still got plenty of time to make a mark. Now I want to talk about Monte-Carlo and the draw in Monte-Carlo. This is going to be very impromptu. I'm just going to look at the draw and kind of give my predictions. We technically had the first day of main draw play today, but I think we've only finished 3 matches, which was Thompson beating Impechi Pericard, Gasquet beating Arnaldi, and Vacherot beating Struff. But that being said, I do want to look at the draw before the second day of play and kind of talk about what I kind of think is going to happen. First thing I want to mention is that I think this is a very unpredictable event. I don't really have much of an idea of what to expect from nearly any part of this draw. The one thing I'll mention is that Tsitsipas has won, 3 of the last 4 times that this event has been held. If I have that right, Rublev won in 2023. I think Tsitsipas has won 2021, 2022, and 2024. So that is very notable. And also, Tsitsipas just won Dubai, playing very good tennis. Sunshine Double's never been friends with him. So I wasn't that shocked he didn't play that well there. But yeah, just going... First of all, the first section is insane. Like, this is an absolutely nuts section. You have Zverev, you've got Berrettini, Lehechka, Korda, Musetti, you've got Rune, and you've got Tsitsipas. That is a monstrous draw. Even if you just had Musetti, Tsitsipas, and Rune, that's already insane. But then you have, like I said, Zverev, Berrettini, and then you also have like Navone, who likes clay. Like, the first section is the most insane section, and that's not just because it has Tsitsipas, or it also has the first seed, because Zverev is the first seed. So what I think is going to happen, I'm going to make this really off the cuff. I'm not going to think too much about anything, really, but I would favor Tsitsipas to beat Thompson. Thompson doesn't like clay, to be frank. Impechi Pericard was a great draw in the first round because, just like Thompson, Impechi Pericard would much rather be playing on a green surface than a red surface. He'd much rather be playing on grass than clay. And then, yeah, I think I would back Tsitsipas to beat Rune. I would think for sure. I really love the way that Steph was hitting his forehand in Dubai, and I expect the way that he loves playing the cat and mouse on the clay and kind of has so much time on his shots on clay. He'll really enjoy here playing with the new racket still. I would take him to beat Rune. And then Zverev hasn't been playing very well. I don't think it's a good draw for Zverev. Actually, I like him in Monte-Carlo. I kind of feel like he's going to have a better tournament this week. I feel like he's had a little bit of a rest time. And I really like Zverev on clay. But I would pick Tsitsipas to beat him. I feel like Tsitsipas is going to obviously have the motivation. Honestly, Zverev hasn't even really been making quarterfinals recently. I feel like Zverev will be at least a little happy to be in the quarters. Tsitsipas is defending the title, and this is by far the biggest title he's won in the last 52 weeks, so he's going to be highly motivated to get through that one. I've got Tsitsipas getting through that. And then you have Djokovic. So I got Tsitsipas through the first quarter. And then you got Djokovic, De Minaur, Medvedev, Dimitrov. Again, in a different way, I just really don't know what to expect. I would have Djokovic getting through that top part of that section. I don't expect Medvedev to have much success, to be honest. Karen Khachanov is an interesting player. Actually, speaking of Karen Khachanov, who's unseeded and a dangerous unseeded player, the other thing I want to mention really quickly is I don't think Berrettini beats Navone than Zverev, but I would not keep my eye fully off Berrettini. This is a guy who's been playing well. He loves playing on clay. And I feel like this is a tournament where, Alcaraz has never won it. Sinner's not playing. Djokovic hasn't won a Masters title since 2023. Like, it's not very clear who's going to win it. I wouldn't take my eye fully off of Berrettini. He is a guy who might just have a really fantastic tournament here. I still pick Zverev to beat him because that's a tough draw in the second round. But going into section 2, Djokovic, I expect to get through that top section, and then I reckon Djokovic will like playing De Minaur, Khachanov. He's still got a problem with his eye though, Djokovic. I mean, De Minaur is interesting, honestly. Like, De Minaur is an interesting player, but I've got to go with Djokovic. I kind of have a feeling that he might not get through it, but my gut says no, my brain says yes. I'm going to go with my brain this time because Djokovic rarely loses before the semis anywhere. And then what next? Draper, Casper, who's here? Tiafoe, Shelton, Fokina. Yeah, give me Casper. I'll take Casper to the semis. I just think he's one of the best players on clay. I expect him to have a great clay season. And also he's defending final from last year. He was playing really well here last year, beat Novak. And then what else? Rublev, Monfils. I think Monfils takes out Rublev in the second round. Monfils is the greatest, what is he, 38, 39? The greatest 38-year-old we've seen in a long time in tennis. Since Federer beat Djokovic at the ATP Finals in very straightforward, straight sets. He is the greatest 38-year-old we've seen in a long time. One of the greatest 38-year-old tennis players or maybe athletes ever. I don't know. He's up there. Certainly one of the best 38-year-old tennis players ever. Yeah, you have Alcaraz down here. You've got Arthur Fils down here. I mean, I would love to see Monfils have a great tournament. Kaboli just won a title. He's here. Lajovic has made the final of this tournament before. Marozsan's in here. He's beaten Alcaraz. He's in that section. Griekspoor just made a final, and he's always underrated. I think Griekspoor has mentioned that clay is his favorite surface. Certainly could be his best surface. Also very unsure what to do here. By the way, there are two champions in this section who have won this tournament before, and that's Rublev, and it's also Fabio Fognini, who's also in this section. Also, by the way, Cerundolo's in here. This is really tough to predict. I'm going to back Alcaraz, even though I would also watch out for Kaboli, Fils, and actually I'm going to mention Monfils too. And I'm not going to mention Rublev. I'm really just not high on Rublev. Probably Rublev's going to win the tournament because whenever he's just not doing well, that's exactly when you should bet on him to win a random clay Masters 1000. But I'm going to pick Alcaraz to go through. So I've got Alcaraz versus Casper, and I've got Djokovic versus Tsitsipas. Alcaraz versus Casper, I'm going to take Alcaraz. I think he likes that Casper-Ruud matchup. I really think that if Alcaraz makes it to the semis, he's going to be very determined to make the final and back himself on a clay court, and he's going to be motivated to make his first Monte-Carlo final. He hasn't had that success here as he's had, in Madrid or Roland Garros. He's looking for that success at, I guess, Rome and Monte-Carlo, right? So we'll see if he gets it. Djokovic versus Steph. That's a really difficult one just because of the success that Steph has had here. But Djokovic loves that rivalry, and I don't think Steph has the confidence, honestly, to beat Novak. Novak's won their last, 10 matches? So I'll take Novak over Steph. I don't think that's a good head-to-head matchup. And Djokovic just got to a Masters final. I guess I'll take him getting to another one. And then Djokovic versus Alcaraz final. They had some great practice points today. I thought I was going to go crazier than this with the final. But Djokovic versus Alcaraz final. I'll take Carlos. Give me Carlos in 3 sets. I don't think it's going to be their most epic or high-level match ever for some reason. Maybe partly to do with Novak in Monte-Carlo just hasn't been at his best. I just really like him getting through his draw, and then I guess if Novak was in that first section, I had to play some of those guys earlier, I may not choose that, but I feel like it's a decent draw for Novak. I feel like for his standards, Struff just went out. He's got Jari, Dimitrov, potentially Wawrinka. Tabilo's not playing well. Obviously Wawrinka's beating him in big stages, but Wawrinka's playing really well, actually. But he's got Demonor on the other side, Baez, Medvedev. I feel like these are players that Djokovic isn't going to hate seeing in his draw, so I feel like it's a really good draw to get to the final. I feel like Alcaraz, nobody has to doubt that Alcaraz is going to have massive motivation to win that match. That is obvious for many reasons. Djokovic beat him in Australian Open. Djokovic beat him on clay at the Olympics. Djokovic, everybody says, has his number. So many people are saying that Alcaraz is struggling right now, that he's having a bad season. so-and-so, 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 so-and-so for Alcaraz to beat Djokovic to win his first Monte-Carlo title. That would be a big thing for Carlos. Alright, I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for joining in for the New Tennis Era podcast. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe to Quality Shot Tennis. Be having weekly podcasts. Hopefully this podcast will start coming out Monday mornings. So hopefully a little bit more timely releases with the finals. And yeah, I appreciate you guys for watching. And stay tuned for the Monte Carlo coverage this week. Hopefully some live stream action also. And I will see you guys for the next one.